So what is your success criteria that you have to decide? So I have seen in my life technological success as well as business success. So I had taken some decision based on my that time thought process. I used to study at Institute of Science, Bangalore, and it was a trend that all of my classmates, they were going for either further research in US or maybe some jobs, mostly going for the research. I thought, is it right for me also to follow the trend? And I decided no, this is not my route. And the reason why I decided not to go abroad is primarily because of one reason, that I come from a very humble rural background. None of my known person in my family is living in a major metro, forget about the US. And if I go abroad, I will be away from my own people, and I thought that this is going to be very bluster. This is not what I have decided, to be away from my own people. So this was the thought, but good or bad is nothing. This is not the case now. I'm talking about 1988, right? So that time there was no possibility for someone to come back and do something substantial, right? If he want to excel in his career, he has to remain there, right? So this was the case. Now things are changed. I sent my daughter to study in US and working there. So all things are changing. But this is something which I took a decision to remain in the country. This remains a challenge in my mind every day, that if I have decided to remain here, I should be doing something substantial. So few years back, I was reviewing with my friends. 42 of them live in California area, right? Silicon Valley, right? And the general outcome of the discussion comes that you have done something significantly more than what other counterparts of my friends, they have done. They have become expert in a field. In a particular field, they may be chief scientist of an organization. Some of them are chief technological officer of an organization, right? None of them had an opportunity to create an organization from scratch, develop the product, right, and made a business success, which I could do. Right. So this is the background which was forcing me to do something beyond. What was that beyond? I had an opportunity to create a product which was globally competitive, right? And then with this thought, that can we develop a product which is ahead of a state of art? Now, Indian industry R&D is not matured enough to think of doing a product development which is ahead of a state of art. So I came to IIT Delhi and say that if your research outcome can be embedded into these products quickly in a nice manner, then these products will become ahead of the state of art. And this was something when IIT Delhi was almost dying to get someone to work in this area, and the same at my side, and this association happened. Okay. So this 3 years ago, I became professor of practice at IIT Delhi. So this is a long story, but I thought it is necessary to share with you. Right. Now this talk is on IoT systems. Right. I have seen various definitions of the IoT systems in my life. Right. So I want to give you some perspective how these IoT systems are actually changing in context of private 5G network deployment. Right. So in this process, I will be telling you what is this private 5G network. Right. What is 5G network? What is private 5G network? What is the change in the IoT systems? Right. And what do I consider the various constituents of IoT systems? Because one can, as I was saying, that the definition of a success you can decide. So here, even the scope of the IoT system you can decide. Right? So I'll take some few steps like this. That this looks like to be an architecture. I'm sure all of you are aware with this. Right? So IoT means Internet of Things. So there are things here, and they need to be connected to the internet. That's the whole goal. Right? So, but if you connect something to the internet, there has to be some network to connect to the internet. That means these devices are connected devices. right? So this internet, maybe you can consider this internet is a black box. You are an IoT system person. You somehow you feel that connectivity is available, right? So I am bothered only about the devices, and I'm also worried about the IoT application system. And if you happen to know some IoT platforms like AWS, for example, right? Then there is not much to be done there. Most of the things are already available in the platform. Then what do? You develop this device, right? And what is this device? This device may be a sensor, may have some communication, with some embedded board, right? Little bit of a programming, not too complex of a programming, right? So making an IoT system is one of the simplest things, right? But making a sustainable IoT system, making a business-worthy IoT system is the most complex part. Right? So I will touch some of those points. Right? So as a simple definition, that there is a IoT devices. Some of the devices may be connected to a mobile network or a wireless network. It may be connected to the Wi-Fi. It may be connected to the BLE. Right? So maybe a wireless network. Right? And some of the devices would be also be connected to the wireline. So don't exclude this option. So they are IoT does not mean that it has to be wireless. It can be a wireline system as well, right? And now let me tell you that the quality of service which can be offered on a wireline system, it is too difficult on a wireless system, right? So this is for all critical systems, even wireline is preferred, right? We will touch on that part. Right? Now, if you take this internet, so what are the options? One is the carrier service, cellular service providers. Cellular service providers will have 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, right? Getting ready for something more, right? I think you normally don't bother what is the network connectivity you have. It is connected. It is reaching to the cloud. I think that is the objective. So which network connectivity, which type of a network connectivity is required for your solution, I think that is actually your concern. Right? Other option could be ISP, right? Internet service providers. Right? So although this definition between cellular service provider and internet service provider is blurred, right? All cellular service providers are giving internet services also. Right? So then in this case, technology differ. So if ISP who does not have a CSP license to operate, a CSP license means the license of a spectrum to use, and the spectrum are of two types. One is unlicensed spectrum and the licensed spectrum. Licensed spectrum, the service provider need to pay a lot of money as a license fee for the spectrum uses, while an ISP can offer services on a unlicensed spectrum band, and Wi-Fi is one of the example of that. LoRa is another example if you want some large range IoT systems to be deployed, right? Now, based on what you are developing, the nature of application changes. So nature of application could be latency tolerant. Can someone give any example of latency tolerant? What does it mean latency and latency tolerant? Let me help you to understand. So, for example, a smart meter. A smart meter is one of the IoT device, right? In India, 25 crore smart meters are supposed to be deployed. Although currently it is less, but almost 10 to 15 crore smart meters are under tender process. So it will happen in another 1 or 2 years, right? So that is the largest number of IoT devices in the country as of now, right? So in a smart meter, what this IoT device will send? IoT device will send some of the electrical parameters, right? Some electrical characteristics, quality of service, current, voltage, power consumption and all that. And this periodically keeps sending. So the mechanism is that you send every 15 minutes some data, right? Even if this 15 minutes data is lost in somewhere, right? Doesn't matter. After another 15 minutes, same data will go, right? And at the 24 hours, at least some data will reach. So the service provider, which has head-end system at the back as an IoT application, does not even bother to collect every 15 minutes. Once in a day is enough. Right? Because he thinks that the purpose of this data is to create monthly bill, nothing more. If the purpose is only to create a monthly bill, so once in a day means once in twice a day is also okay. So if this application has taken some time to reach from the device to the application, if there is a latency involved, application is tolerant to this latency. So this is called application, latency tolerant application. Now you can think of something else. There may be another application, like there is a robotic arm, and this robotic arm need to be controlled based on the analytics to be done at some analytic engine at an application. So here this application is controlling the navigation of a robotic arm. If that is the case, then something is happening physically here, and that physical action need to be controlled in a very well defined time. If this control comes back after some stipulated time, then this control is waste. You have lost. So 35 years ago I understood what is a real-time system. Right? So from an operating system perspective or real-time computing, it is not just compute execution of your instructions, right? And you have got a result. Here the goal is real-time system, execution anyway has to be correct, but there is a mandated time. If it is not done in this mandated time, there is no value of this compute. Right? So for everything there is a budgeted time. And if you are doing a compute within that budgeted time, then you are following the real-time systems, principles. So these application like controlling robotic arm is that example of real. So your applications are not latency tolerant. So if you need to develop an IoT application which is latency, it's not latency tolerant but real time in nature, then you have to very well bother what this network is. Right? Agree?
Yeah, so in your previous example, if you are going to implement demand-based electricity, demand-based tariff, so we cannot tolerate latency there also.
Very good point. Very good point. I'm struggling to make this convince to power grid and the discoms in the country, right? That your goal is to set up a smart grid. It is not only the automatic billing system, and the smart grid needs what is the instantaneous load, and if someone is exceeding the instantaneous load, it should be detected and it should be disconnected. Why you are drawing more power which you are not authorized to? Otherwise, in this case, every 10 minutes there is a trip. It is only because of the overload, right? So if your system are real time, latency non-tolerant, then it is possible. Thanks. Very good example you talked. Right. So these are very common applications, right? So you have applications.
Can you give us some idea that how much congestion currently we are facing in 4G network we have or 5G network, and what sort of things what is the future scope in that?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Can we have some idea, like previously we have 2G and 3G, so even it was not possible to deploy the smart meters you told us because that will create a lot of congestion. But currently we have 3G and 4G and 5G is there. So how much congestion if we'll put that load on this GSM network and how much it can bear?
So very good question. but you are letting me deviate from my talk. I will certainly answer this question at the end, right? It has a long answer, so I'm skipping it for the time being. Right. So applications like connected cars, I think everybody is experiencing, right? Connected homes, a smart city application.